So I'm super pumped to have this conversation with you today, Katie Besso. You have been on my guild team for how many years now?
8 years coming up on 9.
Okay, 8 years, almost 9. You've just turned 30 years old this year. So you started when you were the ripe age of 22. Fun fact, you are my half sister. We're 13 years apart. I'm 43, you're 30. You were going to college at UNR, and obviously business was booming at the time. This is 2016, and I'm creating the Builder Bible, and I'm going, I need help. I need a smart, capable someone to get in here and help me with projects. And I lured you in to come on a Christmas break. Of course, you never grew up thinking you'd be in mortgage, did you?
No, no.
What did you want to be when you were growing up? What did you think you were going to do? What did you study?
I studied business, but I think that was just the pressured path. Education was really prominent and important for our family. But realistically, for a long time, I thought I would run dad's business. I found a lot of passion in doing that. I started doing it when I was, 12 years old, estimating these multi-million-dollar jobs. It was so fun for me. And for a long time, I thought I would do that.
Wow. That makes total sense. I know Mario would have wanted that. So Katie and I share the same mom, who is unbelievable and probably one of the most stable, consistent mothers I've met. And I know being one, she blows me away. She was really good about building self-worth and self-confidence and providing just total structure in our lives. And then Katie's father, Mario, my stepfather, was an immigrant from Guatemala, served in Vietnam, and built a construction company. And Katie, you came around as his bonus baby way late in life.
Oh.
And he was determined to show you the world and teach you about money at a young age. When did you start paying the bills?
About 12 years old. I paid all of our monthly bills. I cut the checks. I balanced the checkbook. I did everything for the finances of the family. It was really challenging at that age.
Yeah. And he wanted to teach you how to be capable in every way, not only with money and business. He brought you to a lot of political events and affairs. He taught you how to shoot every gun known to man. You knew how to build tents and load four-wheelers and drive boats and trailers. The other day you were telling me, I was out building a fence. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, Katie. It's amazing. So anyway, you get roped into the mortgage business, and I am excited to interview you today because at 30 years old and being a loan officer for only a short period of time, truly in your own name, you're absolutely crushing it. So here we are in August of 2024. What does your production look like year to date? What does your team look like? Where are you at?
So I run a small team here at Guild. We have 3 loan officers, including myself, who are all producing in their own path and their own ways. Personally, I'm sitting at about $39.5 million year to date for 84 families helped. And our team is sitting at about 155 families helped for 67 million year to date, which is really exciting.
67 million, and I'm at 7.5 months. We are on track for that $100 million number with the Gifford team. And listen, there's been a lot of change, right? You've been part of the Gifford team. You started with me as a project manager, and then your next role was what? An LP1?
Yeah.
Okay. And as an LP1, what did you do for me, and how long was that job?
I sat in that role for, I want to say 4 years. And it was the most beneficial role I think that I've ever had. I think it's where every single person in this industry who wants to get really good should start. I just dialed all day. Our team at that point was in a structure where we worked 500 leads a month, and our phones would ring all day long. And so no matter what you were doing, you were answering the call from a $100,000 home to a $100 or $1 million buyer, and you just had to adjust. And it was really, really powerful. I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, but I had a really cool mentor during that time too.
Yeah, 100%. And who do you consider your mentor at that time?
Lynette.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lynette was my first teammate. She started with me in 2010. She stayed with me for 12 years until we retired Lynette. From the day she started, she said, Shayla, I want to retire. and, I've got to have $1 million in the bank and I've got to do all these things. And, I think being a team leader, one of the best, most gratifying things ever is helping other people hit their financial goals. And we focused on that with Lynette, and she thereby did that with everybody on our team. I love that you say we were doing 500 leads a month, because we never did that, but it probably felt that way, Katie.
Like that.
I think, when I was the lead rainmaker, and that's where I spent my time doing every day, making the 10 to 15 calls a day and the 3 to 10 meetings a day and the presentations every month. I think we generally got about 200 to 250 leads a month during those key years. And this is when the Gifford team was really building. You came around in 2016 or 15?
16.
In 16. So we were at about $80 to $100 million of production when you joined the team. As an LP1, it was really a sales assistant that just helped convert leads. So the job every day was living and dying by that lead tracker. I either wanted that lead to be green, meaning it was good and it was booked and it was progressing, or red, that it was dead, but no white space. And it didn't matter how many calls we had to make to try to get that lead on the phone and decision it, red or green, dead or alive, and move it down the field. And because of that, you're looking at hundreds and thousands of credit reports, and you're looking at every product and program known to man, and you're building relationships with every segment of the business. And you learn how to just work hard. You sat in a cubicle all day, every day with your screens, and you're building that technical ability. So I agree with you that it's the best sounding board. And then after being an LP1 on the Gifford team, you're now like 4 or 5 years in the business. Then what happens?
Our team started to evolve. We came into COVID, rates hit an all-time low, and we started taking loans further than just lead to contract. We closed them in entirety, and it allowed more empowerment. So it felt like I was really starting to build my own relationships. We were still originating under Lynette's name. She was still the team lead, but we were learning a new position. We were learning, well, what happens after someone goes under contract, and how are we successfully rate locking people? So it evolved. It gave me a greater picture of the entire process.
Yeah. And that, by the way, that was very intentional, because I had grown out of the team. Lynette kind of became the team leader, rainmaker, make sure the business was happening. And our LP1s had to rise up and be those team loan officers. We were also meeting the demands of the customer, that they wanted to talk to one person. They didn't want to talk to an LP1 and then talk to a Shayla and then talk to a Lynette and then talk back to the LP1 and then talk to an LP2 and then talk to a processor, which was how our team ran for a long time, and how we pumped out a lot of volume with, fairly inexperienced people, because they were just doing one segment. So in this time, I'm living in Spain, and you are now a team loan officer, closing loans, running your own pipeline, making sure they close on time, balancing the front end and the back end of a transaction. And then Lynette retires. Lynette retires, which was like, oh, so sad, but obviously so exciting. Mm-hmm. What happens then?
God, felt like we were just pushed out of the nest. One day we had her, and the next day, I think she actually ended up retiring right at the end of a calendar year. And so it was like, hey, not only are you guys all waking up tomorrow with 0 closed loans in a new calendar year and no volume on your main screen, but you're out. Go figure it out. You guys are running the accounts. You don't have this mama bird figure that you just felt like was protecting you, and go figure it out. And that was 2023, last year. So you became a full-blown loan officer, commission only. You eat what you kill. And what'd you do in production in 2023? 67 families for 28 million.
28 million. And you earned President's Club your first year on your own.
Yep.
And then at the end of that year, I promoted you to be the sales manager of the Gifford team. You'd earned it. You were not only the lead producer on the team, but you were also executing our marketing plan and strategies and constantly learning all the new tools and techs and integrating all of that stuff. So you've had quite the journey, Katie. And I mean, seriously, I don't know if you realize this, because I was like, what? You're at 39 million year to date. That is on pace, sister, to be at 60 million in production. Did you realize that?
No.
Okay. So now I want to talk about hard stuff, and I want to talk about sacrifice, because it's one thing to go, yay, all this, but let's get real. Let's get real and raw about what does your life look like every day and what have been the key steps to get you here. Right now, so many loan officers are like, gosh, this is so hard. And I'm noticing that the difference in mindset is drastic from one loan officer to the next. And while this business has always been quote unquote hard, it's emotional, it's technical, it's high pressure, it's dynamic, it's very emotional. It's always been that way. Now you add on rising interest rates and very low lead flow and volume and a high competitive environment. It's like triple hard. But it's interesting from a mindset perspective. The people that have had real hard in their life, that have gone through some real shit, seem to be like, okay, this isn't that hard. I'm putting the hours and putting in the reps, but this really isn't hard. And it's a perspective thing. So just a window into your life, Katie, you're 30 years old, but what are some of the hard things that you've been through that's making you have maybe a different perspective or an advantage in this market?
I like it because I do think that this can be hard in ways, but like, this isn't the hardest thing I've done. Like, showing up and doing this job every day is challenging. There are people who I am frustrated with all the time. I mean, I will go through a day where there's a million reasons that I'm like, this would really be nice if this wasn't my job. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this isn't that hard. This is doing something in a process, and something that I think for my entire career, I've obsessed over, in knowing that if I can control the process and I can control what the next step is, and I've built that, then this isn't hard. This is just doing the next thing on the checklist. And I think that's what's made me feel really successful in this time and this market, is just understanding that it's just the next thing on the list. You did the first thing, just go to the next.
So what have been some of the things that you would consider hard?
My parents got divorced when I was 4 years old. That was hard. My cry on this video. Our mom struggled with addiction for a very long time. That was hard. I was 16. My dad passed away 5 years ago. I was 25. That was hard. And then the world was like, you can do it. But my husband went through a really bad addiction 6 months into our marriage. And that was the hardest. I'm like, newlywed, here we go, but this is hard. This is something that really challenged me.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm over here trying to hold it together so I could pull you back to the surface. So being your coach primarily, and also having you be part of the Gifford team, I get a clear insight into watching you. And I love studying loan officers and saying, okay, you all have your own unique genius. You all have your own unique gifts. And just because you and I are related does not even mean that we are close to the same person or would approach this the same way. In fact, it's very different, which is why we complement each other. So your success, Katie, has 100% been yours, which is what I'm so proud of. Like, it's like a holy shit moment for me to see what you're doing. Not that I didn't ever think that you wouldn't be completely capable of this, but I remember you coming over to my house on a Sunday and you were just really frustrated. And we talked a little bit about this breakthrough moment that you just had with a builder partner. And I was like, yes, that's it. That is it. So what was a turning point from you? Because like, you don't just go from 28 million in production last year, which is about 2 million a month, to 60 million in production, 5 million a month, without there being a key turning point. So what was that for you?
It was competitive drive and the feeling of failure. It was, we had a long-standing builder account, Desert Wind Homes, and they brought in a backup lender. And our production with them went from a consistent amount of closings every single month to 2 lenders on the same email. And clients calling me and saying that they just got off the phone with another bank and they just want to see what I can give them. And I had this moment of feeling like I failed our team. Like, you'd worked so hard to create this relationship. And overnight, I'm like, I just feel like I'm not winning anymore. I feel like I'm losing with this account. And I called the builder rep, and without any intention or thought or plan, I told her, I sobbed on the phone. And I told her, I said, I want to quit my job. I don't like what I'm doing. I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm failing you guys. I feel like I'm failing myself. And she provided me a lot of hope. She was very, very positive. She was supportive, but it was just this vulnerable moment with her where I was more personal than business. I explained to her what was going on in my life. I told her about my husband, and it made me and her have this connection that I didn't think was there in my business relationship. Truthfully, I showed her this level of fight that I was like, I need you and this relationship more than ever right now.
Yeah. So there was that raw, real, honest vulnerability. And there was also this fight. People could see, she could see in that moment how bad you wanted it.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me that you did this and how shocked you were at the reception that you got. That like, when you finally just, but here's what it is. Here's who I am. Here's what I want. Here's why this matters to me. This is pissing me off. How that was received, like, oh, okay. Well, Katie, like, we have your back. Yeah. We're with you. And you were kind of like, oh, whoa, okay. This is crazy. I thought you would think I'm weak or whiny or whatever. But instead you got people that fiercely protected you and put their arms around you and actually were open and gave you real feedback and treated you differently as a partner from that moment on. And I remember saying to you, I'm like, Katie, that is it. That fight that I just saw, you have to let people see that. You have to squeeze their heart. You have to say why you want it. They got to see that twinkle in your eye, that desire that you have. And people want to help other people win, especially when they know their why. So have you translated that to other accounts and other meetings? Is that, why was that a turning point, or what success have you had since then?
Yeah, I just started sharing it. I felt empowered by that moment. I didn't feel like I was calling her to complain, or that I was calling to feel like I wasn't worthy of it. It made me feel protected by her. And I knew that the other partnerships that I had would respond in a similar way. And during that time, Josh was just coming back from rehab, and he didn't want to work. He was at this point in his sobriety that was really challenging for us. We just spent a full month apart. And I knew that his environment needed to be really intentional and protective of him. And so I shared it with other people. I shared it with some of our business partners, and I just said, like, hey, here's what's going on in my life. And I'm a sole income person now. I don't have the W-2 that my husband was bringing in anymore. And I'm a year and a half into this business, and I'm 30 years old trying to lead a team, and I've never led a team before. And I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but this is what I've got going. And it was John Cheplack who said, it's a season or a reason. And for me, that was like, oh, I am fully in both of them. I'm in a season of building because I know what type of life I want, but I'm in a reason of protecting my family and giving my spouse the freedom that he needs right now. And so it just gave me this oomph. It gave me this ability to go to people and go, this is what I freaking need. And this is why I'm doing it. And it's hard. And I know it's hard for you, but it's hard for me. And that was just that moment.
I got to just take a picture. This is just too cool. I don't even know what to do. So let's talk about the why, because everyone says you got to have a why. And then I think the key thing is you got to be able to articulate that, because we are emotional beings that occasionally think. Mm-hmm. And when there's an energy match, when you can just feel somebody's intention. And I think the reason you had the guts to fight as well is because you knew you would put in the work. Yeah. You knew you busted your ass for this account. You weren't just going, oh, I just need it because I need it and I'm not undeserving of it. You're like, no, I deserve this business, and I'm pissed off that this other lender is coming in and just waving a low rate sheet and talking shit. And now I'm just a failure. Like I'm pissed because I will do whatever it takes to win. I just need a partnership that will do the same for me. Right. And you articulated it. But Katie, you said, I know the level of a lifestyle that I want, and I also want to provide this for my husband. So how do you synthesize those things? Why are you motivated and driven to get to a certain income level? And I think we were talking like, you really want to be at what, 500 grand a year? You want to be at $1 million a year? Like what have you determined is like what you want to build and why?
One, I've seen the power that my guidance and my production can do for other people. Like I hired my first assistant and I'm just like, okay, I did it. It's cool. He's learning. It's such a blessing. But it was a moment where I realized like, holy smokes, this can change his life. What I'm teaching him, because I've gone through it and I know how it changed mine, I know it can change his if he's willing to do it. And so I never realized how much that would motivate me until I started to experience it, of going like, holy smokes, I want to give that to other people because I know that if I can do it, you can do it.
Yep.
Because the job is not hard. It's just figuring out the process. And it was knowing that like, I wanted to be really empowered in the sense that I wanted to support myself. I never wanted to feel like I needed another income to carry me. I wanted to feel like no matter what path my life took, I was going to be 100% okay. And I could support and buy the home that I wanted to buy and take the trips I wanted to take the trips of and do those things. It was just, I always wanted to know that I could do it 100% myself.
Yep. And finally, you've wanted to create an income level for you and Josh to do what?
After going through the things that we went through, I knew that I never wanted to risk his addiction or our marriage because we needed another income.
Yeah.
I was willing to put in the work because I wanted to create that safety for us.
That's so good. And you must say it on here. So what is the next big target? Are you working to hit 500 grand a year? Working to hit 750, working to hit $1 million? Say it.
I want to build a team. I want to build a team that does it for us. I want to bring people in that understand that they can do it too at a level that can impact their life. So I want to bring back the big production. I want to have a team of 8 LOs who produce, combined $200 million a year in volume. I think that's a very powerful team. That's a team that can do a lot of good. And it feels like a big goal, but it also feels really easy at times. Doable. It feels like it's just with the right people.
So I want to talk about a plane ride that we took, what's happened. And then I want to get into your daily, what does Katie's day look like? Because I think this is where this gets tactical. But in March, we went to a conference and I hosted a mastermind, and you and I sat side by side on an airplane. And I was like, look, Katie, we got to go over your goals because I'm doing this with every person in the mastermind. So what were those 2 personal goals that you and I talked about, that you wrote down, and where are you at with them?
I wanted to hire my first assistant, which I did. And I'm the best thing in the entire world. It's so freeing. And I wanted to buy a new primary home for Josh and I, which we will close on in about 10 days, which is exciting. Yeah.
Oh gosh. And so the power of goals. This is like literally only 5 months ago. And you told me, you're like, gosh, when these goals stay in my head, they overwhelm me. But when I sit next to you with the tray down here on this Southwest flight, and we just talk about them and say, well, how much money would the primary be? Where would the money come from? What are you going to do with your other one? Are you going to rent it out?
Yeah.
What does it look like for a teammate? Who is your ideal candidate? What are the people that you're driven by? Like, we really just flushed it out.
Yeah.
Literally in 4 months, you made both of those monstrous things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was on the phone with you in Amsterdam, and you had first hired Evan as part-time because the opportunity kind of fell into your lap. And then you're like, oh, now I have the opportunity for full-time, and you were questioning yourself.
Yeah.
This is the girl who's on track to do 60 million. And she was questioning herself of whether or not she's ready to have a full-time person.
Yeah.
And do you remember what I said to you?
No.
Okay. I said, listen, it's not about how, it's about who.
Yeah.
And when you can really find the right who and pour into them, there's nothing you can't do. You need to just trust that you can do what you need to do really, really well. Yeah. Right? This is where we all need to work in our unique ability. And over the last year and a half of being your own loan officer, you've had to go who is Katie? Why does Katie deserve the business? What value can I bring to the table? And what I love that you said earlier is that you've actually just adopted that it's not about your personality, it's about a process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those that just commit to trusting a process and building everything out process oriented are the ones that crush it. Now, you work your ass off on top of that, Katie. Okay. I think you have achiever as your number one strength, which means you have a really high stamina for hard work. You've got learner and individualization. So you really like to individualize, which is why you want to be a team leader and you really care about your people. You're competitive and you're a relator. You like to really connect on a deep level with people. But let's talk about some of the sacrifices that you've made in the last year and a half, going commission only and building what you've built. What does that look like for you in terms of your family? Let's talk about the real word sacrifice.
You know, it felt like for 6 months, I outworked people. I was the first one in the office every day and I was the last one to leave. I took my Saturday and Sunday and found an hour where I could do things that normally I would have been at the lake or skiing or doing whatever. But there was just this shift and this why behind me that said, you have to do just a little bit more. But it was those really, really small moments that were so crazy. It was spending an extra 2 hours at work when nobody was here to be able to create a process that then saved me 12 hours over the next couple of weeks. It was just that repetitive thing of saying, if I just do a little bit more for a short period of time, it all accumulated to so much help for myself long term.
So let's talk about a couple of those processes. So the sacrifice you're saying is you put in the work.
Yeah.
You really said, I'm going to outwork everybody and I'm going to take the time to build the processes that will save me time later and that will make me highly referable. Yeah. So give me some of those tools and tech that you use that you think has been a differentiator in your business growing so much year over year.
One was creating processes that every single lead went through the exact same thing. Okay. There were no variances in the scripting. There was no variances in the steps. There was no variance in the timing. It was able for us to say, hey, if we can show a way to put 100 leads into a process and a system and study them when they come out on this point and see, well, where in this process do they respond? And telling our partners like, hey, I get it. When you send me a lead, you think I'm going to connect with them right away. But our process that we've studied shows that most people don't actually answer until this step. And maybe this step doesn't happen until 8 days after the referral. And so it was just those little things of coming up with very, very measurable things that we could create and duplicate again and again, and then go back to our partners and say like, hey, look what I created. Do you want to give it a shot?
So a couple of things that you're referencing is you've built outreach sequences. So this is sequences in the CRM and how many different sequences do you have now built, do you think, Katie?
30.
You have 30 sequences. So there's 30 different types of leads or partners or contacts or whatever that you would run through different sequences depending on their stage, their goals, whatever the case is. Yep. Now, did you write all those sequences for 30 or what did you do there?
Nope. I used what other people had created with minor tweaks.
So you became obsessed with saying every lead needs to be on a sequence and it's a mail, call, email sequence that's all pre-written and pre-thought about in terms of the cadence and the tone and what's being said. Mm-hmm. And that way you could go to a real estate partner and say, if you refer me, it's going to be consistent every single time. And I can get really good insight and reporting as to the conversion, what converts, when it converts and why. So how is that allowed you, because doing the amount of volume you've done without an assistant for a long time, how has that allowed you to earn more business, retain the business, land deals that you wouldn't have landed?
My day's really organized. If I take the time to put these people on the processes and the sequence that I've built, I just have to show up and do the exact same thing every day. So I've got these time blocking where I go, okay, cool. I'm going to spend 2 hours a day in outreach. I'm going to do the exact same thing and I'm just going to clear my tasks. And it takes all of the thought out of the very monotonous, repetitive task. It just basically says, hey, cool. Here are the 10 calls, the 4 texts, the 3 emails that you have to do and on to the next. And if people respond, great. If not, you know that the next day they're going to be there again. And so it was just being diligent about creating that and then sharing the success with people, of going to a real estate agent last week and saying, hey, you referred this lead to us 6 months ago and it never converted. But because they were on this long-term follow-up, she called me and said, hey, I want to look at this home. She looked at this home. She placed an offer. She just got an offer accepted with a 5% credit. This girl's on a 4.5% interest rate on a 3-2-1 buy down. She's paying at a 1.5% her first year. I mean, it's crazy. And then to go to people and just be like, hey, anybody who you haven't converted, let me try them, because I'm able to reconvert people because of what we've created.
And that's a unique value proposition. And that gives you confidence to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, you got stale leads? I know how to work those. I want to turn that into gold for you. Well, let's just run through your day and we'll call it good. What time do you wake up in the morning, Katie?
6 a.m.
Do you use your Apple Watch to buzz you? Do you have a loud alarm? What does it look like?
Yeah. I wake up to like gong sounds and soothing light.
Oh, one of those soothing light gong sounds. Okay. Yeah. And is Josh waking up with you or is he sleeping?
He's snoozing.
He's snoozing. Okay. So you wake up at 6. Do you tiptoe out of your bedroom to go work out, or what do you do from there? Yep. Give us your morning routine.
Slow morning. I go on a walk. I spend time with our dog. I go outside and water our flowers, create coffee. I'm very repetitive in the morning. I love it because I need 5 minutes to get ready, but I feel like I need an hour and a half to 2 hours to just get in my energy for the day.
Okay. So do you sleep in your workout clothes, or do you have them like lined out in the
that would be a step up in preparation. The days that I do that, I am more successful, but no, it's usually fumbling in the dark to try and find pants to put them on backwards, to do it again. It's not always smooth.
To go on a walk in your neighborhood with your dog. Okay. So what time are you leaving the house?
I try to get to work no later than 8 a.m.
Okay. So you're out
at 9.
Out the door at 7:45. Yeah. Have you eaten a healthy breakfast? What's your deal there?
Yep. Made a breakfast, made a shake. I'm trying to implement Josh cooking my breakfast since he's up and at it, but we're working through that still. But yeah, out the door at 7:45 a.m. At the office by 8 to really have almost a full hour just to myself before the workday starts.
Okay. And I imagine there's not many people in the office at 8 a.m., is there?
Rarely.
And you like it that way?
I love it that way.
Okay. And then when do you do a team meeting?
We do team meetings on the Monday in the afternoon, otherwise at 9 a.m. with our team the remainder of the week.
And what does your team meeting look like now?
Mondays are pipelines and more relationship building. Tell me the goods, the bads, the weekends, the time that we really get to spend with each other. But Tuesday through Friday is really, really intentional. We just re-implemented the 3-3-3, 3 things all in under 3 minutes, and 3 things you want to do, 3 things you have accomplished all in under 3 minutes. And it keeps us moving. It's really accountable. But it also gives us all the time to come together really quick in the office and just see each other, because the rest of the day we're closed doors on the phone. It brings us all together real quick in the morning.
So 3-3-3 is, what are 3 things you got done yesterday? Mm-hmm. What are your 3 goals for today? All in under 3 minutes.
Yep.
And you're doing a standing huddle with the team. Everybody has to come in prepared with their 3 and 3. And if they're there by 9 and they know they're 3-3, even if you're calling them in on the cell phone, mm-hmm. It's just a standing meeting and it gets everybody fired up and focused and clear.
Yep.
Cool. And you spend about 2 hours a day in lead follow-up and working your outreach sequences?
Yep.
Okay. Pre-approval meetings. Are you in person? You on Zoom?
I do 100% in person. There's very little reason that I allow someone to be on the phone or on Zoom.
Wow. So it doesn't sound like you even allow them on the phone. It's either Zoom or in person, but almost always in person.
Correct. And if they're on Zoom, they can put their camera off, but they will 100% get to see me.
Is part of that been a strategy because you're younger, Katie?
Oh, yeah. I mean, trying to sell loans when you're 25 years old is hard. It's hard to get people to trust your financial advice and to speak to them at the level that they're at, but getting to see them face to face and react when I can understand their body and show them my screen and see a professional outfit and understand an office, I just feel like it sets me apart.
And do you do a similar presentation every single time?
Every single time.
Any particular tools you use in your presentation?
One of the things that I've always done and I've always gone back to, even though I've taken it out of my process, is I write everything down for them. As silly as it is, I keep a yellow notepad in here I write tons of information about what goes into their payment and their cash to close. I rip this off and I send it with them. And I've had so many clients go, that helps us when we go home and we're laying in bed that night and we're talking about what we understood from you today. And we re-reference those notes. And I send them the emails, but it just feels like when someone can leave with that piece of paper and they've seen me write through the options, whether it's a rate lock or a pre-approval, it feels more real. It's a tangible asset.
Very interesting. I've always used to say when somebody comes in for a full pre-approval meeting, like I want to print the pre-approval and sign it right in front of them and give it to them and they have something in their hand. Are you still using that strategy?
I don't. It's all virtual now.
You might want to try bringing that in because I want to give you something. You came in to get pre-approved. We had this great meeting and I'm actually giving you a certificate saying you're fully pre-approved or you're pre-approved. And now I'm trying to get you to credit approval. All right. So we talked about your why. You want to live a certain lifestyle. You grew up with a certain lifestyle. So you want to make sure that you could provide that for your future family and yourself. You want to travel. You like to ski. You like to hike and bike. And your vision is to build a $200 million team with 6 to 8 loan officers. You're using your tools and tech. You take time to build the processes. You're the first one in the office, and you know that it's a season and a reason that you're willing to make the sacrifices. You're also willing to be bold and courageous and throw your heart in the line and show people your fight. I'm very proud of you, Katie, for all the ways in which you're constantly learning. And I've seen you figure out how to be a salesperson. I've seen you quickly figure out how to be a trainer and build processes for other people. I've seen you also learn how to be a leader and lead people and also lead your realtor partners, and that's a big deal when you're 30 years old to say, hey, you might be 45 or 55 and I'm 30, but I have some value for you. And that takes a lot of courage. So I'm super pumped that we got this time together and that others will get to think about their morning routine and how they work and where they're investing in processes. And thank you for being so real, raw, and honest and vulnerable about the real stuff, because you don't just do 60 million in this market without having some scars to show for it. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you.